Hi there. For once I'm going to actually record one of my renovations. This is an old shotgun that my grandpa used to shoot rabbits and probably squirrels and other animals with, maybe birds as well. It is an Iver's Johnson. I think it is the Champion model. It's a 12 gauge shotgun, single shot, breech loaded. You can see that it is in somewhat pitted shape and some rust marks on the steel. The stock itself is kind of pretty, but it's got a chip in it. It's got an awfully unfitted butt pad on it. But the worst part of it is that there is a crack that has been repaired, but it's redeveloping, or has redeveloped. You can see right down there along the neck, little tang that shoots down from the receiver. And there's where a chip looks like it had been re-epoxied or wood glued back into place. And so what I want to do with it is I want to still keep the original character. I don't think I want to make it all smooth and everything, but I do want to take the rust marks out. There's some pitting on the steel on the outside that looks like it's been sanded a bit and then repitting. Pitting has come back. So I'm going to do a little bit of work with it, probably with steel wool, but I don't think I'm going to do much sanding on it. It does look like somebody had sanded this down before, possibly my grandpa, but sanded off most of the Iver's Johnson wording that is normally printed on this thing. It is still barely visible. I don't know if the phone can pick it up at all here, but there is a little bit of a reading here that says barrel and lug forged in one, and a little bit that says that it is a bore choke. So my guess is that this is not choked at all. It is bore choke, and so the pattern is going to be pretty wide on it. But anyway, I'm going to start working on this guy. What I'm going to do is I went out to the hardware store and picked up a few things. I picked up some paintbrushes, some steel wool. This is the 0000 size. Some toothbrushes. No, I do brush my teeth, but this is for the gun. And the nice thing about the toothbrushes is that they don't have any lanolin or any other chemicals on them that would otherwise mess up stain and bluing. And I also got a bunch of different grits of sandpaper here. The next step was to go ahead and take the forestock and the barrel off of the rear receiver. And to do that was really easy. Basically, you just pull down on the forestock and then it slides out, and then there is a metal piece here that unscrews from this, and then the barrel just basically cants forward and up and back and out. So that was real easy. Now what I've got is the stock receiver and stock itself, and I've removed the butt plate. Now there is a single large bolt that runs down, as is typical. That was super easy. You see here that the receiver and the tang spring, I think it's a tang spring, or no, that's the mainspring, is attached to the rear stock using this single bolt. The rest of this can be worked with, but most importantly, the reason why I got that off of there was to work on the wood separately, and there is a crack. You can see if I separate it gently, and you see that? It's actually going on both sides. What I need to do is I need to reinforce that with some epoxy. I'm going to extrude or intrude that in there, and that will go ahead and prevent this from running any further. You can see up here on the bottom side it's cracking out as well. So that should be a nice repair for that, a good functional repair, and then I'll get to decide how to refinish this. Again, I want to maintain the original character of the gun. I don't want to completely strip and redo it. Speaking of inhibiting rust, this is the key right here. It is the 0000 steel wool that picked up at the local hardware store. So I'm going to rub down these metal pieces and get rid of the surfaced rust as much as I can, and that'll also be the first part of the prep for rebluing all of the metal, which will infuse itself into the metal and push out the moisture. I went over every piece of metal here with that 0000 steel wool and an isopropyl alcohol in order to degrease everything, and did a reasonably decent job of getting all the surface rust off, or almost all of it. There's still a teeny bit down in there. I think it's in the metal itself, but not very much, actually very, very little. So what's next is that since I don't want to sand this down any further, I want to retain kind of a bit of the character, is it's already been degreased, and what I want to do now is blue the parts. So what I did is I went ahead and picked up Van's Instant Gun Blue. This stuff's really, really good. A lot better than the stuff you typically buy. I'll have instructions, later on how to get this. But it doesn't take very much of this to do. Okay, let's take a look at the difference. The piece on the left was blued, and the piece on the right is still degreased. And you can see that bluing actually doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be blue. It could end up making it black, depending upon the kind of steel that it is. But you can see here that the boy, it's really tough to see. I'll try to bring it into some different light. But the rust has been kind of boiled right out, and what's left is a nice dark colored, non rusted metal. And so that's exactly the look I'm going for. Okay, the bluing is complete. There are still, a little bit of rust you can see here, kind of deep in the metal, but it's mostly come up pretty good, and the barrel itself is much darker. Like I said, I wanted to retain the original kind of character. You sort of don't have a choice when you've got a weapon that this is this old. You can see still there's a lot of black mark and some pitting at the end. But, the only way to get that out would have been to really grind down onto the metal, and that just wouldn't be right for a grandfather shotgun. So I think this is a good treatment. I went ahead and after it was all done with that gun blue, I went ahead and put on this super fine oil, which also comes in a pack with the blue, that neutralizes the blue and also helps protect it from moisture. So now onto the stock. I have to decide if I want to strip this surface off or not. Well, I decided to remove the outside surface, the gloss on the stock, and what I found inside was a rather appalling set of scratches against the wood. What I can't tell is whether some of this might be a botched kind of repair job, or whether it may be thicket marks from carrying this thing around in the bushes. It does look like there are a number of repairs, chips to the stock that have been glued back in. There's the most obvious one we saw earlier, and then of course there's cracks that I need to repair. But it does also look like some early cracking that had started, and just overall some little dents and things. If this was a regular old project gun, I would totally strip every last ounce of varnish out of this thing, or stain, and take it down to the bare wood and sand it down as smooth and as nice and scratchless as possible. But given that this is an heirloom, I want to retain some of the character of it from how it was once used in its life. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do a little bit of light sanding and to then stain it right from there. I think the light sanding and stain might actually even be combined. There is this wood finish that I picked up that from the same folks that you can apply using high grain wet dry, and it actually does a pretty good job of combining the wood dust back into the filler. Well, the first coat's been applied, and I like how it's turning out. The more and more I kind of rubbed in that oil with my hands and then used that 1200 grit sandpaper to kind of add some filler to it, what happens is that it picks up a bit of the wood dust and kind of pushes it down in with the finish into the wood. I really started to appreciate kind of the damage of the wood and the story that it ends up sort of telling, and that is that this shotgun was used to feed his family, and was probably lugged around in the woods and with not a whole lot of regard for collector's value, because it wasn't a collector piece at all, and it was just something that was going to be around with him to hunt with, and by gosh, that's exactly what it was used for. So I'm actually liking how this is turning out. So what I'm going to do though with this main stock piece, obviously I have some repairing to do. I'm not going to add any more stain, but I'll let this at least until it's repaired. But I'll let this dry overnight, and then I will work on that crack and get some epoxy down in there and see if we can get that all nice and shored up. So that's how it's turning out so far. Alrighty, here's the finished product. Went ahead and put on 3 coats of that oil, rubbing it in by hand and letting a day go by each time. And you can see that the bluing worked out real well. I think the character of the wood stock looks really good. There is a bit of depth to it. It does have kind of a satin, maybe semi-gloss, almost sort of rubbed finish. You can see some light reflecting off of there. But I think it keeps the overall character of the wood, which you've heard me say is pretty important to me. And the bluing of the gun matches with the wood real well also. And most importantly, the bluing and the stock refinishing and the gluing, of course. Remember the cracks that were there. Well, the cracks are still there, but they're adhered now by a really liberal layer of super glue, essentially CA, thin CA, the thinnest that you can get, working it way down into the cracks. And that should keep it nice and tight with light shot loads. Definitely don't want to shoot anything too heavy in this gun. It is old, but you can see the grain came out real nice. So I'm happy with the process. Again, it just really is taking your time and using some light sanding in between each one of the oil applications, and using wet dry to work it gradually in. Came out real well.